Feeling very direct today, very passionate and fiery about this episode. It could be the embarrassing number of espressos that I've had today. Probably 8. It was Cortado City while I was writing content for you all. Cortado City reminds me of Slide City for my Canadian millennial girlies. I know you know. There are a few things that I know to be true after working with thousands of women. And if you have super traits, I'm talking to you. If you're new here and you don't know what super traits are, super traits is the work of Sandra Brown. I've kind of taken it, modified it with the Big Five personality quiz, because this is something that if we do not have a fundamental understanding of our super traits, everything when it comes to sex and intimacy and connection, our health, feels like a slog. If you want to know if you have super traits, head to the show notes and take my assessment. I'll tell you what your top 2 super traits are, and you're going to get a free training. I'm going to show up in your inbox every day for 2 weeks, explaining this to you on a fundamental level that is going to blow your mind. This is free for the time being, so walk, don't run. Get some understanding that is going to make so much of how you are feeling and what you're experiencing right now makes sense. So my truth bomb, my nugget that I know to be true, and that is, if he cannot handle your tone, he is never, ever going to be able to handle the full force of your desire, your orgasm, your passion. And I'm going to say it again because you need to hear it again. If he cannot handle your tone, he is never going to be able to handle the full force of your sexuality. Let's explain why. So the clients that I'm working with in the live group coaching, and even some of my clients in pleasure mastery, so this is phase 2 and phase 3 of the pleasure path, they wonder why they can't have multiple orgasms, why they can't have orgasms that last minutes, why they can't orgasm with their partner, but they can orgasm alone. Also, if you just want to have better sex, more sex, if you feel shut down, starved in this area, listen up. I am Dr. Jordan Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. I'm a naturopathic doctor, author, coercive control certified clinician, and pleasure and intimacy strategist for high-functioning women with super traits. And it is my mission to take you from extractive love relationships, which again, if you have super traits, you are unaware of your super traits, and you are unaware of how this shows up in relationship, that is you. You are in an extractive relationship, and that is why it feels so hard. And it doesn't mean you need to leave. And it doesn't mean that you need to change who you are, because guess what? This is our personality. These are our gifts. It is why we are so successful in our careers. It's why we are so caring, forgiving, loyal, open. But these traits, when we are unaware of them, when our therapists are unaware of them, and we have no idea about power dynamics or coercion, what any of that means, we end up giving more than we receive. That equals extraction. That is why our bodies shut down. So we have physical, mental health, hormone issues, autoimmune issues, breast cancer. This is how I got into this, because for the last 12 years, I've been treating women clinically. And that was sort of the end stage and some of the ways that our body was speaking to us. But way before the breast cancer diagnosis, way before we are considering divorce or an affair, way before we're considering, I just want to stay single forever because this is the one area of my life that is too damn hard. There was super traits in extractive love relationships. And no one has taught you how to have a pleasure-centered relationship. And that is what we are doing here today and every day. It has been a while since I've done something like this, and I am so excited to invite you all to my Super Trait Masterclass. The truth about why successful women struggle in sex, love, and relationships. This masterclass is free, and you're going to see why your hard work, your empathy, your tolerance haven't actually brought you the intimacy that you crave. And you're going to discover the first step to building a relationship that actually feels mutual, connected, desirable. You're going to walk away knowing how super trait conditioning quietly drains your desire and connection, and what you can do to finally stop the same patterns from repeating. This isn't about hormones, therapy, communication skills. It's about the way your body has been trained to survive in love and how we can rewrite that script so you can receive instead of just perform. Join me, my current clients, my past clients, on October 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific for a 60-minute training on the language to name what's really been happening in your relationship. It's not actually you. And you don't have to try harder. Clarity on why the therapy, the podcast, the communication scripts, the hormones haven't solved the problem. And you're going to learn the first step to stop repeating the same patterns and start creating a relationship that feels amazing, connected, and desirable. Head down to the show notes, save your spot, and I will see you on October 2nd. I got a question. A lot of you love these episodes and I get feedback from them. So this is a listener question. And she said, Dr. Jordan, I love your podcast. Thank you very much. And I hope if you listening also love my podcast, please take a minute, give me a 5-star review. Back to the question. Dr. Jordan, I'm so exhausted. I'm completely dry and crusty, as you say. The things you say on your podcast feel exactly like me, so I hope you can help. My husband and I keep getting stuck. We've been in and out of couples therapy for years. Our communication has gotten a little better. We don't have the same big fights as we used to. If I ask for help, bring up how I feel, or even suggest something small, he immediately comments on my tone. For example, I'm in the middle of one of the biggest contracts of my career, and our daughter is having a sleep regression. I'm on duty at night. I've tried softening, saying things calmly, even rehearsing what I want to say, but sometimes it comes out wrong in the moment. I've read nonviolent communication, worked on communication with my therapist. It always still seems to get thrown back at me like I'm being too harsh or negative. He would help if I asked nicely. I'm starting to wonder if I really am the problem. I try my best, but sometimes the anger and resentment come out. I am totally shut down towards sex and intimacy, which is creating a whole other layer of complexity in our relationship. I ask for help. He doesn't help. We get into a fight about it, and I end up resentful and doing it myself anyway. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there. He ends up not speaking to me. What should I do? And how does this connect to why I feel so shut down sexually? So people ask, do I hate men? I would say, yes, I hate men that tone police women and still want their dick sucked. But let's unpack this and then we can see where we're at. Okay. If you listening have ever thought, Maybe I'm too harsh. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe I'm expecting and asking too much. That is our wounding talking, our superwoman conditioning. Okay. Not hormones, not communication, not codependency. This is super traits plus coercive control equals no one is happy in a relationship. But there are easy fixes. There is another way. Let's rewind a little bit. I want to define tone policing. Tone policing is when you bring up a need, a frustration, ask for help, and instead of engaging with the content of what you were saying, you are critiqued for how you said it. This is a bait and switch. This is you having game run on you. It can sound like you don't have to be so emotional. I'd listen if you weren't so angry. Why do you always sound so critical? This is not about tone. This is about control. Women with super traits, empathetic, responsible, tolerant, forgiving, loyal. We are wired to preemptively manage conflict. Okay, so before it even happens, we're thinking 10 steps ahead. We soften our tone, we rehearse our words, we do the emotional gymnastics just to try to be heard. Okay, that overfunctioning, that's part of why we are exhausted and why we can't fully relax and feel seen in sex. If you're wondering if this is you, head to the show notes, take the super trait quiz. I cannot stress to you enough how validating and how much clarity this is going to give you. If you have super traits, you need to understand this. If you don't have super traits, why are you listening? This, like, my podcast is not for you if you do not have super traits. If you have super traits, if you are a multi-passionate entrepreneur, if you are very, very successful in career, you are probably the oldest child, or if not the oldest daughter. And I could go on to tell you more and more about yourself and your relationship. And I know you so well because I am you. And this is what I have spent the last 12 years is helping women like you decode the ways that we feel, the way we feel physically, mentally, and in relationship. And when we finally start looking at things through this super trait lens, it is a game changer. And it's why all the time you've spent in therapy hasn't gotten you the result, the return on investment. Okay, so tone policing is a subtle but powerful form of control. And I used to tone police because that was modeled in my household growing up. So I just thought it was normal. But there's a difference. So when you realize a behavior is ingrained from years of patriarchy, years meant to control and suppress women and our sexuality and our pleasure and our desire. Once you realize that it's going on, you can have language around it and take a different action. That's what we're going to talk about. So, tone policing is a form of control. It is deflection, where we are shifting the focus off the issue at hand onto your delivery. Okay, not fucking cool. And if you are tone policing someone else, you need to stop. The second way that it is a form of control is because it is a denial and a minimization, making your needs seem irrational or exaggerated because of how you said them. Okay, like I'm just honestly, I can feel my pelvic floor contracting while I'm talking about this. The message underneath tone policing is your feelings, your needs, your truth are invalid unless you present them in a way that pleases the receiver. That means the person policing the tone has the power. They're the top. And we do this, like some of us do this by default, okay? Because we haven't learned the tools for true connection. We are living life in survival. If you want to learn the tools for connection, you're going to want to head to the show notes and sign up for Relationship 2.0, the pleasure belief reset, your path out of exhaustion and into intimacy, sex, relational clarity that actually feeds you. In 12 weeks, we're going to learn how to stop overfunctioning for an underfunctioning partner. We're going to reclaim our erotic power without guilt and create a blueprint for intimacy that doesn't cost you your health or your orgasms. There's only 10 women. 2 spots were already taken at the time that I recorded this. If you've carried the relationship, if you've tried to fix it, if you've blamed your hormones, your stress, yourself, your codependency, your attachment styles, and you are exhausted, if you haven't gotten anywhere ahead, or there's moderate change for a bit and then it slips back. The truth is, you were never taught to solve the correct problem. You've been surviving inside relational and sexual dynamics that you were never taught to name. And the advice in therapy, the communication formulas, attachment styles, they do not work for women with super traits because they are based on faulty assumption that our partners have the same capacity as us, have the same super traits as us, that they are putting in equal effort. But that is often not the case. We are overfunctioning for an underfunctioning partner. And when you learn how to equalize that dynamic, which is usually about doing less and getting more in touch with your desires, how to receive, that is when the game changes. This program is unique because it addresses the 2 things that you, in all your research and all your hard work, and every other expert has missed. Firstly, how your super traits set you up for exhaustion, resentment, and sexless marriages. And number 2, how power dynamics, not communication, not hormones, not attachment styles, are the real barrier to intimacy. You don't need to leave to start healing. You just need to be done with the status quo because relationships are feminine led and you have been giving your erotic power away to systems that do not understand and honor your super traits. Head to the show notes for more information and to grab your spot. I am so excited to teach this. Let's create Relationship 2.0, pleasure-centered relationship together this fall. So my question always is, when we're talking about abuse, power, and control dynamics is, do you do this to him? So say we're talking about gaslighting, and we can get into the, oh, his trauma and his childhood and the patriarchy. So, like, that's why he gaslights me and he can't tolerate shame and he's neurodivergent. Okay, great. And do you gaslight him? So, again, in the past, I used to gaslight. I grew up seeing that because I did not learn the tools necessary for connection. I learned the tools necessary for survival, and that's what made me a superwoman. But once I realized what gaslighting was, I thought, oh, this isn't good. I need to stop this behavior. And I learned the tools required to stop it. And that's why I love you all so much, because when you are given the correct set of tools, you take action and you make magic happen. So, tone policing. Do you tone police him? If he's stressed, overwhelmed, carrying the extra load of the relationship, if he gets frustrated and resentful, if he asks for help, do you comment on his tone? Do you ask him if he has his period? Do you tell him he's being too emotional? Or do you jump in to help? Or do you take the temperature of the room and realize that he's on empty, he's stressed, overwhelmed, and you do all of the overfunctioning so he doesn't even need to ask? So, do you see where this is not reciprocal? That's why it's extractive, That's why our physical health, our mental health, our sexual health all deteriorate in relationship over time because we are giving more than we are receiving. And some of us, like this is our default. We don't know how to do it any other way. These are the skills that I am teaching in Relationship 2.0. In my dominatrix work, there is the concept of containment, and I've talked about it before, but there's healthy containment and unhealthy containment. If you're being contained in an unhealthy way, told to stay small, quiet, agreeable, which is essentially what's being done when your tone's being policed, our nervous system is going to read that as not safe, like as a cage. It's the opposite of intimacy. Desire doesn't grow in a cage. It grows when our body knows that it is free to express, to roar, to cry, to moan, to be too much. So, this is why this matters for your sex life. If your nervous system cannot safely express emotion, anger, frustration, need, desire, it doesn't feel safe expressing true surrender, true orgasm. Arousal requires your parasympathetic nervous system, your ventral vagal state, rest, digest, connect. And that only happens when your body knows I am safe here. I can let go. And this is often why many women can orgasm on their own and not with their partners. Tone policing sends our body the exact opposite message. Be careful, filter yourself, don't get too big, don't get too loud, don't ask for too much. Okay, so our nervous systems, our pussies, our desire, like our body is so smart, it's telling us, it knows if we're safe or not. And if you can't be too much in your voice, in your tone, you are not safe to be too much in the bedroom, which is why I know if you're being tone policed, if you know that you have, like, if you have no idea what super traits are and how they're impacting your relationship, you're performing in sex instead of actually being present with pleasure. You don't have the nervous system capacity. It doesn't feel safe to come undone. And some of this is our shit, where we feel that if we show vulnerability, show weakness, ask for help, then it doesn't make us worthy of love, worthy of connection. Okay. And that's our work to do. That is not on our partners. But when we're talking about relationship 2.0, and we are working on pleasure beliefs over 12 weeks, that is part of our healing work. If he can't handle your tone, he cannot handle your sexual expression. If he needs to shrink you emotionally, he will also require you to shrink erotically. This is ancient body wisdom. Your pussy knows. So this is not about fixing your tone. And I'm asking you as well, are you tone policing? Can you handle people's full emotional expression? If not, you need to learn how if you want true intimacy, connection, mind-blowing sex. This is not about fixing your tone. This is not about leaving your relationship or blowing up your whole life, even though I know many of you have been thinking about it. This is about creating a relationship dynamic big enough to hold your truth and your pleasure. Action steps for those of you tone policing or being tone policed. Number one, I want you to notice the power play. So if your partner responds about how you said something instead of addressing what you said, name it, call it out. Say we are talking about my tone instead of the issue at hand. Let's address what I asked about, and we can come back to my tone later. And then one of two things is going to happen. He's going to go, oh, babe, you're right. And correct and take action to help you with what you asked for, or two, he's going to double down with the control tactics. And these are the things that you need to know and you need to see. And some of them are just so ingrained in gender roles and in patriarchy, they don't even know they're doing it. But we need to see them, have language around them, and be able to take action steps. The second thing that I want you to do is check in with your body. Ask yourself, does this dynamic, does this discussion, does this argument make me feel more open and safe? Or does it make me shut down, want to run away? We're checking in, we're dropping in to our bodies. Number 3, we need to reclaim erotic safety, and that is within our bodies first. So remember, our tone, our truth, our bigness are directly tied to our ability to feel arousal. Your nervous system will not open if you have to self-police. And we're doing this a lot on our own without even knowing it, especially if you have super traits. So take that quiz if you have not. So if we have to self-police or we're being policed by our partner, this is a massive break for arousal and desire. And number 4, get support. Those of us with super traits have a really hard time holding boundaries or defining them. This is why we are in extractive relationships when we should be in pleasure-centered relationships. This is why I've created the pleasure path. It is why my entire body of work over the last 12 years has been leading to this. If you do nothing, you're going to keep biting your tongue. You're going to keep shrinking at the dinner table and in the bedroom. You'll keep mistaking peace for safety while your body quietly shuts down until you get sick, until somebody has an affair. Working with women, thousands of women over the last 12 years, there is a physiologic cost to not addressing this. 1 in 2 women suffer from sexual dysfunction globally. Women are more likely to have an autoimmune disease. Married women have a shorter lifespan than single women. And ironically enough, men have a longer lifespan than when they're married. So this is like the definition of extractive relationships. Benefit for men, negative for women. And am I saying, don't get married? I hate men. That is your internalized patriarchy. Check it. What I am saying is these are statistics that we have to acknowledge. And it's actually the funny thing, because when I was doing my pre-med degree, I learned that married men live longer. We were talking about that statistic, but it wasn't until recent years that we started talking about married women have a shortened lifespan compared to single women. I can remember sitting in class, I can't remember which class it was, but I can remember sitting in class learning about men living longer when married and why that was. And I remember thinking, but what about women? Like, what is it? What about us? And then I quickly shoved that thought down and didn't think about it again until the research started coming out. Do you know what works better? When we stop centering relationship around what we can give, what our titles are, how long we've been married, what it looks like from the outside looking in, and we start centering it around pleasure. That is what I'm teaching women how to do. So if he cannot handle your tone, he's never going to be able to handle your desire. And this is something that you can fix without his buy-in. You can start the healing on your own. This is what I'm teaching. 12 weeks, live group coaching, 10 women, relationship 2.0, the pleasure beliefs reset, where you get to stop fixing the wrong problem and finally create the intimacy and orgasms you have been craving. Head to the show notes, grab your spot. You will not regret this. This is when it all clicks, when it's like everything that didn't make sense and everything that felt so hard and like a struggle, it's going to get a hell of a lot easier. You might get a little angry first, but the truth will set you free and it's going to turn you on. Until next time, Superwomen.